And welcome back to A9 News Kids. This week on the headlines we have Russia-Ukraine war and the reclaiming of certain territories, Elon Musk, the Twitter and Tesla stock prices, as well as the G20 which will be taking place next week in Indonesia, and the Meta which will be laying off many of its employees. We are talking about the jazz genre in the Crazy Culture segment, which I really hope you enjoy. In the Hungry for History segment, we are talking about the age of discovery, and in the Persona segment, we are talking about someone called Roald Amundsen, an incredible person who was the first to visit both the North and South Poles. In the sub-headlines, we have the debris of a space shuttle found in the Atlantic Ocean, the China COVID-19 eases, and we have the FIFA World Cup in Qatar, as well as the former president of FIFA. This week we are interviewing someone who's called Caroline Fitz-Gibbon, who started a company called Reconnected, which is an organization. I really hope you enjoy it because she has an incredible journey. And don't forget to like, subscribe, share and comment below because we are trying to get to 1,000 subscribers. Thank you. Russian troops retreated from a major city that they had conquered since the beginning of the war. This is a city in Ukraine called Kherson. This city has some of Ukraine's best farmlands, and this is seen as a major win for Ukraine and a humiliation for Mr. Putin. Ukraine has been getting a lot of support because of this, and in September, they also regained another territory that Russia had taken, which was called Kharkiv. Now, international countries that helped fund and gave a lot of money to Ukraine are now supporting and being more confident in Ukraine. There's going to be a lot of reconstruction needed in this city because there's a lot of damage and nothing that was there before is there now. In a talk very recently, a Ukrainian representative said that Ukraine is not looking to end the war and will not accept negotiations or talks with Russia. This is a terrible thing because there's been a lot of damage from the war. There's been economic damage, diplomatic damage, and environmental damage. Many people have lost their lives because of this, at least 100,000 on both sides. If the war doesn't end soon, it doesn't look like anything is going to get better. It's almost been a year since the war started in February. Luckily, Joe Biden of USA spoke out and told President Volodymyr Zelensky that his demands are too high and that he should be less stubborn. The G20 Summit will take place next week in Indonesia. The G20 Summit is a group of 20 nations plus the EU, the European Union. This time there's going to be a lot of tensions because there's a lot of diplomatic relationships that have gone wrong in the past year. President Vladimir Putin has decided that he will not be attending, but he's still deciding if he should do one meeting virtually. Indonesia has been trying to stay neutral during the war, but after a lot of pressure from the West, they decided to invite President Volodymyr Zelensky of Ukraine as a guest speaker. At first, he had declined the invitation, but afterwards he said that he would be attending virtually. There are also other people who are going to be attending, like Joe Biden and many other leaders. President Xi Jinping of China has not yet decided if he will be coming or not. Very recently, he met Vladimir Putin, and he has not met Joe Biden in person since Joe Biden took the office. Now, it seems like he should be coming, and if he does, Joe Biden and him will have a talk discussing US and China relationships. Hopefully, this G20 Summit will bring a good outcome and there will be some solutions regarding climate change and the war. Elon Musk just sold about $4 billion worth of Tesla shares since he became the CEO of Twitter. When his contract was signed and announced that he will become the Twitter CEO, but this was at the beginning of the year, he had also sold about $15.5 billion worth of Tesla shares. Now, the Tesla shares are going really downwards, and they've lost about 46% value since the beginning of the year. Elon Musk now has a huge challenge with Twitter because in the quarter before he took over, the quarter right before June, Twitter lost $270 million, and now advertisers have also started fleeing when Elon Musk took over. Advertising is Twitter's main source of income, and so without many advertisers, it's going to be really hard for Twitter to earn money. He also introduced the blue tick fee, but that has also been creating many problems, like many fake accounts being made and many people impersonating famous others. Meta, Facebook's parent company, decided that it had to lay off 11,000 employees. This is one of its biggest job cuts in its history. There are many reasons for this, but the main reasons are that Facebook and Meta have been using a lot of money for Metaverse and the new changes that have been happening. Mark Zuckerberg, the CEO, also said that he wanted to reduce the team by 13%, which is why they had to let go of many people. But there have been some new arrivals like TikTok that have been coming, making it really difficult for Facebook to gain that many users.
I want to say, up front, that I take full responsibility for this decision. I'm the founder and CEO. I'm responsible for the health of our company, for our direction. Each of you played a role in contributing to the products that billions of people use to connect every day.
Last year, Facebook and Meta were actually valued at $1 trillion, and now it's at $250 billion, which is a big difference. Many tech companies have actually started laying off many people, such as Apple and, as we've seen, Twitter. There's been a lot of money that has been used in the new metaverse, which Facebook and Meta see as the future of the internet. Hi everybody, this week for the Hungry for History segment, I'm going to be talking about the Age of Discovery. I really hope you enjoy. The Age of Discovery was a period from the 15th century to the 18th century when Europeans actually set sail to discover and explore the world. It also marked the beginning of the European colonization and colonialism and the beginning of globalization. This is a time when many continents were discovered and new trade routes were developed, which changed the fortunes of entire countries and the world map. It built new empires using the wealth of the New World. The search for the trade route to Asia was one of the biggest projects ever at that time. Christopher Columbus's voyage across the Atlantic Ocean in 1492 led to the discovery of the New World, and it created a new surge in exploration and colonization. There were also advancements in ships and instruments of navigation, as well as the knowledge of world geography that grew a lot during that age. The Age of Discovery created a new period of global interaction and began a new age of European colonialism. Hi everybody, this week for the Crazy Culture segment, I'm going to be talking about the music genre jazz. I really hope you enjoy. This genre was born in America but was made by African Americans who used this kind of music to express their struggles as Africans and as slaves, and because they had struggled to gain a social status. The music became very popular in the 1900s, especially the 1920s, when it was called the Jazz Age by historians. It moved to many cities all across America. It's very unique because it's only made in America. This was a time where alcohol was actually illegal. You could not sell alcohol, so during the Jazz Age, there were many illegal clubs opening up to feature jazz music and sell illegal alcohol. Did you know that the United Nations named a Jazz Day April 30th? And there are many famous jazz singers like Louis Armstrong and Ella Fitzgerald and many more. I really hope you enjoyed. This week for the Persona segment, I'm going to be talking about Roald Amundsen. I really hope you enjoy. Roald Amundsen was an explorer of the North and the South Poles. He led the first expedition to reach the South Pole, and he was the first person to visit both the North and South Poles. He was born and brought up in Norway. He had always dreamt of becoming an explorer ever since his young age. He followed his mother's wishes until she died and began pursuing medicine, but then he left school to pursue his dream of becoming an explorer. He also became a member of the crew of various ships traveling to the Arctic, and in 1887 he was part of the crew in the ship that became the first expedition to survive a winter in the Arctic. And he also commanded his own expedition in his own ship. He was the first to discover the Northwest Passage from the Atlantic Ocean to the Pacific Ocean, and he also planned on reaching the North Pole next. However, when he heard that someone had already claimed to have reached the North Pole, he decided to change and go to the South Pole, without telling anyone about this until the end. He was actually in a race with another British explorer called Robert Scott, and they wanted to be the first in the South Pole, and they set out to reach the South Pole 10 months after arriving in Antarctica. Finally, after 2 months after hard traveling, they reached their destination on December 14, 1911. Roald Amundsen planted the Norwegian flag at the South Pole, and all 5 of his crew actually returned safely to camp. And the expedition only took 99 days, and it was 1,800 miles, which is amazing. He also began to plan out his expedition to the North Pole, and he succeeded because he was in the crew that flew over the North Pole. Did you know that Roald Dahl, the famous British author, was named after him? Hello, this week on the Spiritual Career segment, we are interviewing Ms Caroline Fitz-Gibbon, who started an organization called Reconnecte. She is currently in the UK, and she has an incredible journey. I really hope you enjoy.
One minute to describe myself. I can't describe myself, but according to what I hear from people, I'm quite reliable, sensitive to people's experience. It seems like I'm quite humble. When you're a social worker, you need to have this cultural humility. I am open to diversity in terms of all the dimension that makes a person, a unique, an individual.
Wow, that's
Wow.
great. Thank you.
That's amazing. And now, can you tell me what you do in your job?
I am a social worker working on specifically human rights and wellness and well-being of LGBTI people in Mauritius, and not just the people, because it's not just about the LGBTI person, but the families, the friends, working with organization, companies to build their inclusion index, and that's a bit what I do. My work focus on transgender people more than the general stream of LGBT people.
Yeah.
And I also work with families and friends and schools as well.
Wow, that's a really
Wow.
amazing and really diverse field of work. And could you tell us a bit about COVID and how that affected what you do?
So, as you mentioned in the beginning, so my organization is named Reconnecté. Reconnecté in Creole, which means reconnecting. It's this space where you have the opportunity of recreating yourself. And the idea came because of COVID. With COVID, some were finding difficulties to get their equipment, and they wouldn't have the means to buy it. So we would be providing these stuff so that they could, as much as we would be helping people with our own, because all the money that we've put in buying grocery, paying rents, providing transport, providing food, providing medication, all these things were from our personal resources. But we would also remind people that we are helping you because we understand that your situation is such and such. We accompany you, but you need also to be there for you. So
Yeah, that's
find a
that's
job
good.
and we would provide these equipments for them to be able to get money and sustain themselves and their families. So this
Wow.
has been the main challenge during COVID. And it's
Yeah,
this
that makes sense. Wow. And you really did try and find a solution. That's amazing.
as much
And
as we could, yeah.
Yeah.
wow.
Wow. Thank you.
And finally, what is your advice to kids?
Um, One of my advices to kids is that change. Okay. Sometimes adults make sure or think that they know so much about the world that they think that you know less. However, I believe that kids have the power to educate adults on how to live a better world for them and the coming generation. If you want your parents to stop littering or people in your surrounding to stop littering, you need to stop it and to show them that this is a bin, this is compost, this is plastic, this is recyclable. So educate yourself, because your education today regarding this will help you to have a greener space for you and for your children, if you want or not children. But
Wow.
this is one of my major advice that I would give to kids,
Wow.
because you have the ability to be the change makers of tomorrow, and never allow any individual to make you feel that you're too small to be important. You
Wow.
are
Thank you so
than
much.
us. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was amazing advice.
Yeah. So
Thank you
this
so
is
much for your time
my
today.
advice. Thank you so much for taking the time and for providing me this opportunity of sharing with you. I'm very humbled and grateful.
Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you so much for
Thank
your
you.
time, girls.
Welcome. Bye bye.
Sepp Blatter, the former president of FIFA, told a Swiss newspaper that Qatar is a mistake. He also said that it was a bad choice. This was weird because he was the president of FIFA when the decision to have Qatar as the next host of the World Cup in this year was made. He also said that it's too small and that the FIFA World Cup is too big for Qatar. Qatar is the first Middle East country to be hosting the World Cup. Sepp Blatter was taken off his tenure because of corruption frauds a long time ago. Now, there have been many protests because of the Qatar decision, but all the infrastructure has already been made and it's going to be starting on November 20th with the first match between Qatar and Ecuador. In the Atlantic Oceans, many explorers were exploring, trying to find artifacts from World War I, but instead they found a 20-foot-long debris from the Space Shuttle Challenger, which was a rocket that had taken off in 1986 and had been destroyed. On January 28, 1986, a really long time ago, the Challenger took off, but only 73 seconds after taking off, it exploded and it killed all 7 members inside. Inside was actually a teacher who was supposed to be the first civilian in space. And because of that, there were many students and people watching from all around USA and the world who witnessed this horror. Now, this discovery of a 20-foot-long debris is going to help the family members who lost the people who were on that shuttle to remember them. NASA also said that along with the History Channel, they're going to be putting this discovery in a new segment called the Bermuda Triangle, which is a new series that is going to premiere very soon. China has announced that they will be easing off their COVID policies, but they have not announced when. They have announced many changes that will take effect, and hopefully this will mean that their no COVID policy will end soon. China has been trying to contain COVID-19 and have as little cases as possible, trying to eradicate it completely in China. They had lots and lots of lockdowns in major cities, as well as mass testing and other things like quarantines, which were mandatory. Many people in China were getting very tired of this, and there were also some economic problems because of all the quarantines and lockdowns in the major cities like Shanghai and Beijing. Now, some of the changes that have taken place are that the mandatory quarantine has been reduced from 7 days to 5 days, but followed by 3 days of home isolation. International travelers will have to stick to the 8-day quarantine in a hotel. Those are the tourists and the people who don't have a permanent residence in China. And there will only be needed one COVID-19 test before arriving in the country instead of 2. Hopefully these changes will take place very, very soon.